I'm going to go through a final article, and this is not necessarily related directly to DART. It's about transportation in general, and I'm just going to read a few lines and just see what you think about it. This comes from the Huffington Post, and this is written in July 2nd, 2010 by John Robbins. And he says that of all the nations surveyed, we America, U.S., have the lowest percentage of people who use public transit on a daily basis, and we have the highest percentage of people who never ever take public transit. And he kind of speculates on why that happens nationwide. But I was wondering what you thought about that being similar to a case here in Des Moines, if it is.
I think that is sort of chicken and egg type of problem. The surest way to increase ridership is to increase service, particularly frequency levels, how often the bus comes by your stop. That in turn requires investment. And what is known in Iowa, based on a study commissioned by the state of Iowa last year, is that we don't come close to meeting the minimum level of service in Des Moines and across the state. And I think our system is adequate, but it could be a lot better.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to the article, and then let's see. He goes on to say, today, with the exception of a few of our larger cities, most notably New York, the U.S. public transit systems have been profoundly neglected. A third of all mass transit users in the entire United States use the New York system, which is why New York is the only city in the country where more than half the households don't own a car. But that even New York still falls short compared to Tokyo, Moscow, Taipei, London, Seoul, Paris, Hong Kong, Berlin, and Copenhagen. Where do you see Des Moines' place? I know that we're very different from New York, and you did mention ways to increase ridership. Does DART have any marketing or programming aimed at increasing ridership that's kind of short-term and long-term?
Absolutely. I want to go back to an earlier point. You said we have one of the lowest percentage of ridership, and while that is true, I think that is changing in America. People's attitudes toward their car and public transit are changing. And there was a marketing magazine earlier this year analyzed census data, and what they looked at was 16, 17, and 18-year-olds and the percentage of them that got their driver's licenses. And what they found is over the past 30 years, the percentages have dropped precipitously. And so that today's youth are less and less interested in buying and driving a car. They would far rather pay attention to their Blackberries or their iPads or their Droids than they would paying attention to driving a car. To them, it is no longer a status symbol, or is becoming less of a status symbol. They're content to read their books on the bus. So I think there is a sea change happening in the United States. And I think we see some of that in Des Moines, and we hope to see a lot more of it. Another thing we're doing to break down a barrier and really to speak to the young professional and the young people who are coming up and coming of age in Des Moines is we're simplifying the process of figuring out your route to use public transit as an alternative. A lot of people find it intimidating to read a bus schedule and a bus map, figuring out where your bus stop is, then figuring out what time I need to be there, what time do I get downtown, etc. We are very close, I think early next year, going to be launching a trip planner, an online trip planner. And this will greatly simplify things, such that all you need to do is log on to our website, type in your origin and your destination, press enter. And it will tell you how to get there and when you can get there.
Okay.
So that will hugely simplify the process. It'll also be available for smart. As part of the same effort, by digitizing our bus stop and scheduling information into data, we will be able to feed it to Google, which then they're able to use that data to create Google Transit for Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
This is already live in other cities such as Chicago.
I've seen that.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
and
know
I've used it. Yeah.
Sure. You know how we use Google Maps to map a trip wherever you're driving? Well, in the not too distant future, you'll be able to map your trips on Des Moines Transit on Google.
Okay. So we're coming to the last couple of minutes of our show, and I did want to thank you so much for coming down with that wonderful news about what's going on with DART. Sometimes I read these headlines and there's, is job loss and this and that, and it's great to have good news going on in the
We're
city.
really happy to
And before I let you go, do you mind
oh, no, I would
telling
love
us
it
the
if you
address?
did. It's the bus blog, and
Okay.
it's thebusblog.ridedart.com.
Okay, and there you have it. Thank you so much for viewing our 4th episode of Blue.Green.Fusion, and thank you again, Gunnar, for coming down and helping us get more information about public transportation in general, and definitely here in the Des Moines area. And we look forward to another great show next week. And if you want the show schedule, go ahead and log into www.mcqueenpress.com. Thank you again, and have a great weekend, everyone. All right, thanks,
Lee.